I let my daughter-in-law humiliate me for years. I paid for her luxury while she treated me like a beggar. But the day she crossed the final line was the day I decided to take it all back. Sometimes the moment that changes everything isn't a loud explosion. It's a quiet, casual cruelty, tossed out like it means nothing. It was a Friday. My son, Timothy, had actually invited me to dinner. I was so happy. I put on my favorite green dress, the one that made me feel confident. I wore the gold necklace my Frank gave me. I wanted to look nice for my family. But when I pulled up to their beautiful house in Riverside, my stomach dropped. The driveway was full of fancy cars. Lisa's friends. This wasn't a family dinner. This was one of her social events. Lisa answered the door before I could even knock. Perfect hair, perfect purple dress, that perfect, empty smile. "Oh, Margaret," she said. "Not Mum. Just my name. Cold. Distant. Good you could come. Walk in." The living room was buzzing. I knew those voices: Jessica, Amanda, Nicole. All Lisa's circle. My son, Timothy, my little boy, gave me a hug that felt like he was hugging a stranger he had to be polite to. "Hey, Ma," he mumbled into my ear. "No worms. Just duty." Then Lisa clinked her glass. "Now that everyone's here, let's go to the dining room." I started to follow, my heart sinking. That's when her voice cut through the chatter, sharp as a knife. "Margaret." I stopped. Everyone stopped. All eyes turned to me. She stood by the dining room door, a queen in her castle. "I think there's been a little mix-up." "A mix-up?" My voice came out small. "This dinner," she said, her smile sweet as poison, "is for my important guests. For people on our level. I think you'd feel much more comfortable eating in the back kitchen." I felt like the air had been punched from my lungs. I looked at Timothy, my son. I begged him silently with my eyes. "Say something. Defend me. Remember, I'm your mother." He looked down at his shiny shoes. "The help," Lisa added, her voice dripping with venom, "should eat in the kitchen." The room was dead silent. I saw the glances, the pity, the curiosity. Jessica and Amanda shared a knowing look. In that second, something deep inside me didn't just break. It crystallized. It hardened. And instead of crying, instead of running away in shame, I felt a calm I hadn't known in years wash over me. I smiled. A real, peaceful smile. "That's perfectly all right, sweetheart," I said, my voice steady and clear. "You're absolutely right. And very soon, you're going to learn exactly who belongs here and who doesn't." The silence this time was different. It was heavy. It held a promise. One only I understood. That night, driving back to my little apartment, it all flooded in. That dinner wasn't the first cut. It was the final one after 4 years of 1,000 small betrayals. It started when Timothy met Lisa. She was a real estate developer's daughter. Used to a world of money my sweet, simple son could only dream of. The first time I met her, the way she looked at me, it wasn't an assessment. It was a dismissal. The comments were always wrapped in silk. "Your apartment is so cozy, Margaret. It's fascinating how you're happy with so little." That fake, sugary voice. Their wedding 2 years ago was a grand affair. I'd hoped marrying into our family would soften her. How naive I was. The first Christmas was the true warning. We were all to celebrate at their new house, the beautiful Riverside home I'd secretly helped buy. "Margaret," Lisa had said on the phone, "you can bring the paper plates." Paper plates. While others brought the turkey, the wine, the desserts. My contribution to the family feast was disposable. But the real hurt came with the gifts. Beautiful, thoughtful presents for everyone. And for me, a last-minute box of cheap drugstore candy. "We just weren't sure what you'd like," she'd said with that hollow smile. They knew exactly what I liked. I'd been his mother for 33 years. The worst part was watching Timothy change. My boy, who used to call me just to chat, now only spoke in hurried whispers when Lisa wasn't around. A year ago, I went over unannounced to drop off some papers. I heard them arguing in the study. Timothy's voice strained. "I can't keep doing this, Lisa. She's my mother." "And she's your mother, not mine," Lisa shot back. "Her always being around is hurting our reputation. People notice. They wonder why we have to deal with that." "But she helped me with college." And now you have to pay her back forever? Lisa's voice was ice. Timothy, in my world, how you treat family reflects on you. A mother-in-law who dresses like it's 1985, who shows up unannounced. It's embarrassing. A long pause. Then Timothy defeated. What do you want me to do? Set boundaries. Short visits. And when we have important guests, maybe it's better if she isn't here. That was the day the invitations truly dried up. The phone calls became museum pieces. But I stayed quiet. I kept sending birthday cards. I kept secretly transferring money when I knew Timothy was struggling with bills. That's what mothers do. What none of them knew was this. My Frank was a brilliant, quiet man. He'd built a small fortune through smart investments and property. When he passed, he left me not just with memories, but with assets, including several properties very few people knew about. After that Christmas, after overhearing that conversation, I started making my own quiet moves. Legal changes. Updates to deeds. Shifting assets into my maiden name, Margaret Sullivan. I was building a fortress. And I was waiting for the right moment to reveal it. The Monday after the dinner, I didn't wallow. I acted. I met with my lawyer, Harold Peterson, a steadfast man who'd been Frank's right hand. The changes you requested are complete, Margaret, Harold said, peering over his glasses. Are you certain? Absolutely, Harold. It's time. The process was finalizing. Soon legally, I would be the sole owner of the Riverside house, an apartment downtown, and a commercial property. All of it. Meanwhile, Lisa was basking in her supposed victory. My friend Jessica, yes, that Jessica, whose husband had been Frank's client, reported back from the tennis club. I had to be firm with her. Jessica mimicked Lisa's tone over lunch. Sometimes old people need reminding of their place. I just smiled. Jessica knew exactly who I was. She was enjoying the theater of it all. Then the first crack appeared. Timothy called nervous. Ma, something weird. Lisa got a call from the property managers. They need to update paperwork. Something about the true owners? But we bought this house. My heart beat a steady rhythm. I'm sure it's nothing, dear. A few days later, a formal letter arrived at their house from Harold's office. Just a standard notification of ownership change. To a guilty mind, it's a thunderclap. Timothy came to my apartment that Sunday, shadows under his eyes. Lisa's frantic. She thinks it's a scam. But Ma, I was looking at our mortgage papers. We took a loan for $700,000, but the balance only shows $180,000. And there are these mystery helper payments covering most of it, for years. He looked at me, a boy lost. Do you know anything about this? The moment had come. I set my tea down. Timothy, did you ever wonder how a woman on a tiny pension paid for your college? Your first flat? All those emergencies. His eyes widened. Did you wonder why people like Jessica treat me with such respect? I continued softly. Why I smiled when your wife told the owner of the house to eat in the kitchen. The color drained from his face. Ma, what are you saying? I'm saying, my dear son, that you've been playing a game without knowing the rules. Or who's really in charge. The following Tuesday, the summons came. Timothy's voice, stiff and rehearsed. Ma, Lisa and I want to have a family dinner. To talk openly. About expectations. Living arrangements. Living arrangements? I asked, though I knew. We've found a lovely senior community for you. We think it's best. He was parroting her script. She was doubling down. She'd assembled an audience. Aunt Ruth, my sister Betty, cousin Jake, Jessica, her inner circle, to witness my final exile. To publicly put the burdensome mother-in-law in a home. I accepted the invitation. When Saturday came, I wore the elegant black dress Frank bought me for our 27th anniversary. If this was a performance, I'd look the part. Lisa's smile faltered when she saw me. The dining room was set like a courtroom. My chair was slightly apart. The jury was assembled. After appetizers, Lisa stood. Thank you all for coming. We need to make some difficult decisions for the family's well-being. She looked right at me. We've found a wonderful senior community for Margaret. She'll be with people her own age, her own means. We'll cover all the costs, of course. The room held its breath. All eyes turned to me. I stood. my voice calm and clear in the silence. Lisa, you're right. It is time everyone knew where they truly belong. I walked to the head of the table, her place. But before we discuss where I live, let's discuss where you will be living very soon. The confusion on her face was almost comical. What? I pulled the envelope from my purse. Timothy, when you bought this house, the down payment was $180,000. Where did it come from? Lisa said her family loaned it to us, he said, frowning. I placed a bank statement on the table. This shows a transfer from Margaret Sullivan to your joint account, dated 4 days before purchase. A murmur rippled through the room. I didn't give it, I said. I loaned it. Interest-free. Because you're my son. I placed another document. This is your mortgage statement. Every month, 2 payments. $1,100 from you, and $2,200 from me. For 2 years, I've paid 2/3 of your mortgage while your wife treated me like a stain on her rug. Timothy looked sick. Lisa was pale. These could be forgeries. I handed the final paper to Jessica. This is the updated property deed. Filed last week. Jessica's eyes scanned it, then went wide. She announced clearly, the legal owner of this property is Margaret Sullivan. The room erupted. Gasps. Questions. But I kept my eyes on Lisa and Timothy. Rights? I asked, my voice turning to steel. What rights, Lisa? The right to humiliate me in my own house? The right to plan my exile while I paid for your porcelain plates? I stood before her. When you told the owner of this house to eat in the kitchen, did it feel powerful? Chaos. Betty was crying. Jake was firing questions. Lisa was screaming at Timothy to do something. In the eye of the storm, I looked at my son. You have a choice, Timothy. Yours alone. I placed the last document on the table. A 30-day eviction notice. The month that followed was a blur. Lisa hired lawyers, screamed, panicked. But Harold's work was airtight. There was no way out. The social fallout was swift. Jessica called me gleeful. You're the talk of the town, darling. Everyone's saying how foolish you have to be to bite the hand that literally houses you. My sister Betty came over, full of tearful apologies for not seeing it sooner. I thought it was just normal tension. That's the problem with this kind of cruelty, I told her. People would rather call it drama than call it what it is. A week before the eviction deadline, Timothy came to my door. He looked shattered. Ma, he whispered, his voice raw. I've replayed every moment. Every time I let her hurt you. Over your dignity. He was crying now. I'm not sorry because of the money or the house. I'm sorry I lost my mother. I'm sorry I wasn't the son you raised. It was what I needed to hear. But the wound was deep. And Lisa? I asked. Gone. She moved back to her parents. She said if I was choosing your money over her, I was weak. He took my hands. But I'm not choosing money, Ma. I'm choosing my mother. I know I might not deserve it, but I want to try. I want to be your son again. Timothy moved into a small apartment. He started therapy. He began, for the first time, living on what he alone could earn. And I made a decision. I moved into the Riverside house. My house. The first night I sat in that grand, silent living room, I felt a peace so profound it brought tears. No criticism. No nerves. Just my own breath in my own space. I started living unapologetically. Jessica and I became proper friends. I reconnected with people. I lived as Margaret, not as Timothy's mom, or Lisa's problem. Timothy visited every Sunday. No asks for money. Just time. Cheap diners, walks in the park, helping me in the garden. The simple things we'd lost. Our conversations were careful at first. Then slowly, they became real again. 7 months in, he asked me something that healed a piece of my heart. Ma, would you come to a therapy session with me? I want to understand how we got here. I want to rebuild this the right way. I want you to know I'm worth the effort. That was the final proof of change. He wasn't seeking my wealth. He was seeking my healing, and his own. I sit in my garden now, in the same spot where Lisa once held her glittering, cruel parties. I realize I spent years waiting for a rescue. For Timothy to wake up, for the family to see, for Lisa to have a heart. But the only person who could ever rescue me was the one I saw in the mirror each morning. I didn't just reclaim a house. I reclaimed myself. My dignity isn't something I beg for anymore. It's something I carry. And in standing up for myself, I taught my son the most expensive lesson he'll ever learn. That true love doesn't ask you to shrink. And it's never, ever too late to choose your own peace. The freedom I feel now, after all those years in the shadows, it tastes sweeter than I ever dreamed. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you, please like the video and share it with someone who may need it. Subscribe for more stories like this, and let me know in the comments. What would you have done in my place? Your voice matters.